The former host of the South Jersey Sports Report, Mike Frankel of SNJ today. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, guys. How are we doing today?
Pretty good, man. You still in the turkey hangover? Still got the turkey tiredness?
Yeah, still got the turkey tiredness. I woke up to find our elf on the shelf passed out next to a turkey carcass, a couple empty adult soda bottles. So yeah, it's all happening after Thanksgiving here.
You got the elf on the shelf already set to go?
Oh, he's rocking and rolling, man. He was in the blender the other day. I found him in the fridge one day. We're in full force here. We're in Christmas mode.
Nice. Let's talk a little high school football. Obviously, you were out there at the Oakcrest game, and we were just talking about it here, Cole and I, about what an amazing game that was for Thanksgiving. It had kind of everything you wanted. Lead changes, great plays by the best athletes on the field, great performances by each band. I mean, you couldn't ask for much more in a Thanksgiving rivalry game.
Yeah, it was an instant classic, you might call it. And I was standing there right after the game ended next to the Absegami team huddle before they accepted that Jay Moore trophy. And, head coach Dennis Scuderi Jr. talking to his team. And, his remarks were brief, but I think one of the things he mentioned was something along the lines of people are going to remember this game for a long time. And that's absolutely true. I mean, it was really the game of the day. There were some games around South Jersey, at least one or two that went into overtime. That one didn't, but it certainly had an overtime thrilling feel, like you said. I mean, so many lead changes. It seemed like Absegami was going to run away and hide there in a good way. I mean, they were up 14-0, and Oakcrest really couldn't get anything going. Then all of a sudden, the tables turned, and the Falcons were able to extend the lead and take that lead into halftime. But down the stretch, I mean, what a play, 4th and goal in that fourth quarter, and Andrew Marcucci finds a way to get the football into the end zone. Chris Dolan makes an absolutely terrific catch. And then give the Falcons a ton of credit. I mean, they marched down the field, a couple big plays there. Kendall Elliott leading the way, and they set up a field goal attempt. And, it's a situation where the Oakcrest Falcons, they don't convert a lot of extra points. So at first you're like, wow, they're going for the field goal. But in hindsight, it's a pretty good call because the kick had plenty of leg, and it just clangs right off the upright there. So absolutely a tough finish for Oakcrest. It might be cliche, but it's one of those situations where there's no real loser in that game. I know Oakcrest certainly didn't feel that way, but I think looking back, they'll certainly appreciate what was able to happen on the field there. But, again, give a lot of credit to Absegami. They found a way to win when it certainly looked like it was going Oakcrest's way during a bunch of stretches there on Thursday.
Yeah, a really nice season by Absegami. You got to remember, this is a team that went 3-7 last year. They flipped that around to go 7-3, and their only losses were to Cedar Creek, St. Joe, and I believe, Timber Creek in the first round of the playoffs. So, their only losses were to 3 of the best teams in South Jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a ton of credit to Absegami, and they found a way, you're right, to get into the playoffs for the first time, I think, since 2012. And then, luck of the draw, they have to play really what's one of the top 1 or 2 teams in South Jersey in Timber Creek. And they did put a few points on the board up there, but as we all know, Timber Creek coming off a South Jersey Group 4 championship last year with a lot of their big pieces returning, and they're going to play in the game again against Lenape at Rowan next weekend. So, yeah, but a great bounce-back season from Absegami, and we've talked about it throughout the course of the season. It's one of those deals where I think it's a win-win for so many teams in the new West Jersey Football League with the scheduling. Absegami is a team that used to have to play a lot of the non-public powers in the Cape Atlantic League, and this year with the new schedule, they get to play a lot more teams sort of in their own boat, schools their sizes, maybe looking to rebuild a little bit, and Absegami well ahead of the curve against some of those other teams because they had a lot of lopsided wins on that schedule and again, qualified for the playoffs for the first time in about 5 years.
Mike, talk a little bit about Kendall Elliott. You and I have both seen him for the past 4 years, and it's going to be tough not seeing him out on the high school football field. What an athlete, and what a game changer in terms of all the things he could do on the field. And I posted something on Twitter after the game that, man, I'm going to miss seeing this kid play high school football because this kind of kid, and Coach Anderson said that after the game. He said, hey, this is a generational player. This is a kind of kid that comes along, once every 20 years to a high school program.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the most dynamic high school football players that you've seen in the Cape Atlantic League for a long time, and obviously a two-way guy, gets a lot of attention as quarterback on offense, but he played defense for most of his career there at Oakcrest. I know he wasn't out on the field defensively on Thanksgiving, and I know he battled a shoulder injury this year, but yeah, I mean, it's just a tough way to go out for him, and it doesn't take away all the great things he did for that program, but you look at that Oakcrest season as a whole, and you feel like they were sort of right there, right? You thought they were going to be into the playoffs, and then in a loaded Group 3 playoff bracket. They just, with a winning record, just weren't able to sneak in. And then again on Thanksgiving, again, a great game by Elliott, 3 touchdown passes, 1 on the ground, and, go figure, a missed field goal off the upright is the difference. But, yeah, just a great, great career and sort of laying the groundwork, I think, for head coach Eric Anderson for kids to follow. And, I talked to Anderson before the season, and he said, wow, what a bonus it was for his first year as head coach. I know he's been around the program a long time as an assistant, but to have a kid like Kendall Elliott, a senior quarterback, sort of a coach on the field, and I know that eased the coaching change transition at Oakcrest. And, of course, it lays the groundwork for a lot of the younger guys in that program to look to a guy like Kendall Elliott and say, hey, that's a guy that did it right. That's a guy that was a leader on the field and off. And now that's my job as a younger guy stepping into that leadership role, not only next year, but for years to come.
Another team kind of similar to Absegami who really turned it around this year was Vineland, and they scored a great win over Millville on Thanksgiving. They finish up, I believe, with a 7-3 record like Absegami. So one of the best seasons from Vineland in probably about 13 years, and nice to see that program kind of turning around under Coach Dan Russo. They got some real nice momentum going here the last couple of years. Yeah,
absolutely. I think Vineland finished 8-2, so they lost that game to St. Augustine in the regular season finale, and that was their
that's
first
right,
loss
8-2, gotcha.
Season. Yeah, and then they turn around and lose that heartbreaker to Howell in the first round of the Group 5 playoffs on that last-minute field goal. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's Vineland's first win over Millville since 2008, and they've had some really close games during that stretch, some shootouts there in Cumberland County, but it's been Millville on top for a long time, and the table's starting to turn a little bit, and obviously Millville has a lot more to play for next weekend as they'll be in the Group 5 championship game against Toms River North. But, yeah, for Vineland, it's a program that's been rebuilding for a long time, and the results don't always come right away on the field. But, you talk to head coach Dan Russo there, and they're really getting in the weight room. He had a minimum required amount of lifts for guys to even dress this year, so guys had to get in the weight room X number of times, and it shows. I mean, they have a lot of big kids on that field, and they're just a lot stronger than they've been. And, again, it's a benefit of the schedule. I mean, Vineland's able to play some teams in their own boat, in the rebuilding boat. But, again, same like Absegami. I mean, Vineland's well beyond rebuilding at this point. They're back to being one of the big dogs on the block there in terms of the large public schools in South Jersey. And they will lose some guys. They'll graduate some key guys, a guy like Davon Seymour out of the backfield. But they also bring back a lot of talent. Isaiah Pacheco, only a junior this season, so he'll be back. I mean, he had a lot of highlight reel plays this year, not only throwing the ball, but running the ball, and also from his defensive back position. And then an underrated guy that doesn't always get a lot of attention, but is a big-time prospect on that team is Naheem Anderson, tight end and also D-end linebacker on that team. I believe he's only a junior this year, so he'll be back to lead the way next year as well. So, Vineland, great season. I know they wanted that playoff win. They came super close, but I think that's a hurdle that the Fighting Fans should be able to get over next year.
It's funny you mentioned that kid, Anderson. I was at the St. Augustine prep game, and I was saying to a couple guys on the sideline, man, who the heck is this Anderson kid? He is an animal. I mean, he was getting after it against arguably the best team in South Jersey, just big hit after big hit on St. Augustine. It really was the big reason that Vineland team was in that game.
Yeah, he's a real physical kid, but he also has pretty good hands. I mean, I covered a number of Vineland games this year, and he had a number of long, nice touchdown catches, kind of over-the-shoulder type deals. And so soft hands for a big guy, but you're right. I mean, on defense, he can really get after it. And, he was talking to some of the St. Augustine kids and head coach Mark Reardon after that game. Of course, the Hermits won and won comfortably, but Vineland really gave St. Augustine its most physical game of the season to that point. And I think of Naeem Anderson, a big reason why on that Fighting Clan defense.
Yeah, Coach Reardon was like, I don't want to see number 8 anytime soon again.
I don't think any team around South Jersey does.
Mike, let's get into the state championship games real quick. Again, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Mike Frankel of SNJ today, kind of breaking down some of the high school football. Kind of what we expected for the most part in the public divisions for the 5 number 1 seeds advanced. Any particular game really jumped off the page at you?
Yeah, I mean, Cedar Creek against West Deptford has to, Sully. It's obviously a rematch of a game that was played last year, and the Pirates were able to come away with their first South Jersey championship game. But a little more history as you go back a few years before that, and West Deptford was able to knock off Cedar Creek in a South Jersey final. So this is sort of the rubber match, and I know a lot of the kids, all of the kids, really, even some of the coaches from that first go-round are going, but obviously a lot of the coaches and kids from last year are still there. So it's a situation with maybe Cedar Creek not getting a lot of the respect they deserve as the defending champs, because I know a lot of the talk has been about West Deptford this year, and with good reason. I mean, they're mowing people down. They're undefeated right now. They had a big win over rival Paulsboro last night, so that's certainly one of the marquee games at Rowan, but you could go down the list and make an argument that any one of these games is the marquee game. I mean, Lenape against Timber Creek, that's going to be an absolutely great game. You have a great offense in the Chargers, outstanding defense in the Indians, both those teams undefeated, so that should be a good one. Group 3, Delsea against Wall. So for people around the 97.3 listening area, I know Wall's a little bit of an unknown, but they advanced to a South Jersey championship game for the first time since 2004. Obviously, they're the higher seed, but Delsea is the 4-time defending champion, so an interesting dynamic there. Obviously, Millville against Toms River North in Group 5. It'll be a tall order for the Thunderbolts, but, hey, the Thunderbolts have been the underdog in a number of playoff games this year, and they've been able to get it done. And then Group 1, Paulsboro against Salem. Again, Paulsboro lost last night to West Deptford, but that's a really good Red Raiders team. Now, on the other side, you have Salem looking for only its second South Jersey championship in team history. Jonathan Taylor, he's heading to Wisconsin next year. He's got the modern-day single-season record for rushing. So, really, it should be a great weekend of those public school finals at Rowan the first weekend of December.
Yeah, Taylor, what did he have, like 800 yards rushing last week?
Somewhere close, yeah. And that win over Woodbury in the semifinals, I think he had 300-plus. He had 4 touchdown runs. And, yeah, he's just a monster, and a really great kid, too, and leading that program to a place it hasn't been to since 1983. So a lot of eyes, obviously, will be on him next week to see if he can finish the job there with the Rams.
I'll tell you what, Mike, real quick before we let you go, I got a lot of confidence in Holy Spirit. I think they're going to go up and win that game against Mater Dei. I know Mater Dei is undefeated, but Holy Spirit's just been getting it done all year. They've risen to the occasion every time they've had to play a big game. And they've only let up 12 points in 2 playoff games. I know their quarterback's a little dinged up. Mike Costabile, they're going to be waiting on an MRI, I believe, for his knee on Monday, so we're not sure if he's going to go. But even if he's not able to go, I think they have the running game to really control the clock, and that defense has just been playing lights out.
Yeah, I would certainly expect a battle. You know, Mater Dei is the higher seed, obviously, but yeah, you're right. It should be a war up there. I'm just disappointed, and I know a lot of South Jersey football fans are, that the game's not at Rowan. I know that non-public 2 final last year involving St. Joe was down at Rowan, and this year it's obviously all the way up at Kane. So, travel-wise, you have to give the edge to Mater Dei because that's a school that's up that way and has a much shorter drive. But, yeah, it's a Holy Spirit team that's really, stepped back up to South Jersey prominence this year. You had all those big wins. I'm thinking back to a big win over Delsea, obviously the overtime win over St. Joe. They hung really well in there with a Camden Catholic team that finished the season 9-1. So, yeah, it should be a battle. We'll see. Again, the Spartans, as you mentioned, a little bit dinged up in some key spots, and Millville's in that same boat. And that's, for the people that make the argument against these Thanksgiving Day games, I know there's so much tradition, but it's tough when a team has to play a state or a South Jersey championship the following week and then maybe possibly loses some of these key guys. So tough deal there. We'll see what they can do at quarterback, but I would expect a very close game, a competitive game between the Spartans and the Seraphs of Mater Dei.
Good stuff, Mike. Before we let you go, give our audience a little plug here about what's going on at SNJ today.
Yeah, when we do our locker room show on Saturday night, Sully, it's 30 minutes of high school football, and for people that were a little tied up eating dinner the other night, Thanksgiving dinner, we did a Thanksgiving version, so tonight's a rerun, but if you missed it or even if you saw it and you want to check it out again, I would suggest it. It's the locker room, 7 o'clock on the old NBC 40 channel, so it's channel 4 or 798 on Comcast, and we got all the Turkey Day scores and highlights, so don't miss it.
Great stuff, Mike. Appreciate it, man. Have a good weekend. Thanks.
All right, guys. Thank you.
That was Mike Frankel of SNJ today.